Hello, my students. I hope that you guys are safe and at home with your families. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about note values and rest values. Much of the stuff I'm going to present today is going to be a review. We've already gone over this previously, but I want to refresh your memory a little bit. So today I want to start with note values. Okay, so the first note value that we're going to review over is the quarter note. The quarter note receives 1 beat, and we count it aloud as ta. The half note receives 2 beats, and we count it aloud as ta. The dotted half note receives 3 beats, and we count it aloud as ta. The next one's the whole note. And it receives 4 beats. Count it aloud as ta. Okay, now the 8th note can be beamed or flagged. So this is the 8th note. The 8th note receives half a beat. And you count it aloud as TT. The last one is the 16th note. It also can be beamed or flagged, and the 16th note has either 2 beams or 2 flags. It receives 1/4 of a beat. And you count it aloud as ticka ticka. Okay, so a quick review. The quarter note receives 1 beat, counted aloud as ta. The half note receives 2 beats, counted aloud as ta. The dotted half note receives 3 beats. You count it aloud as ta. The whole note receives 4 beats, counted aloud as ta. The 8th note receives half a beat, and you count it aloud as TT. The 16th note receives 1/4 of a beat, counted aloud as ticka ticka. All right. We're going to move ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about time signature. Okay, so the time signature appears at the beginning of the music, and it's usually 2 numbers stacked on top of each other. So you may have seen it look like this before. Okay. The top number tells us 1 piece of information, and the bottom number tells us a different set of information. So the top number tells us the number of beats in each measure. Okay? It tells us the number of beats, not the number of notes, but the number of beats in each measure. Okay? The bottom 4 tells us 2 things. It tells us that the quarter note receives 1 beat. And it also tells us that the whole note, receives 4 beats. All right? But most importantly, what I need you to focus on is this top number. The top number tells you the number of beats in each measure. Okay? Now let's put this into practice. We are in 4/4 time, so automatically we already know that in each of these measures, there will be 4 beats in each of these measures, meaning we can only count up to 4 in each of these measures. You cannot go beyond 4 because the time signature has already told us that there are 4 beats in each measure. All right, so before we go any further, let's write in our beats first, okay? So in the first measure, we already know that the quarter note receives 1 beat. And so in this measure, this quarter note falls on beat 1. The half note receives 2 beats. And so we will write 2-3 to show that both beats 2 and 3 belong to this half note. And this quarter note receives 1 beat, but in this measure, in this particular measure, it falls on beat 4. This measure is now complete. All right, moving on to the next measure. The whole note receives 4 beats, so you will write 1-2-3-4. The dotted half note receives 3 beats, so you will write 1-2-3. This quarter note falls on beat 4 in this measure, so you will write 4 there. All right? Now that we've written in our numbers, rewritten in our beats, we now know how long we're supposed to hold each note value. Okay? Now, we're going to speak this and count this rhythm aloud. So if we were to count this aloud, it would sound like this. Ta, ta, ta. Ta, ta, ta. All right. Let's try another one. This time we're going to be in 3/4. So there can only be 3 beats in each measure. All right, let's run our beats in. There are 3 beats in each measure. This first quarter note falls on beat 1. The half note receives 2 beats. So we write 2-3 to show that both beats 2 and 3 belong to this half note. This measure is now complete. All right, moving ahead. This quarter note falls on beat 1. Now we have an 8th note, okay? And if you remember, we count the 8th note as TT. When we are writing our beats out for the 8th note, we write it like this. This particular 8th note falls on beat 2, so you should write 2 and, okay? Moving ahead, this quarter note falls on beat 3. This measure is now complete. The dotted half note receives 3 beats, so you will write 1-2-3. All right? Now let's count this aloud. It'll sound like this. Ta, 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 ti, ti, ta, ta. All right, let's do one more. This time we are in 2/4. The time signature lets us know that there will be only 2 beats in each of these measures. All right, let's write our beats in. Again, we are in 2/4. All right, this eighth note here falls on beat 1, so you will write 1 and. This eighth note falls on beat 2, 2 and. All right, the half note receives 2 beats, so you will write 1-2 to show that both beats belong to this half note. All right, now let's count this aloud. It will sound like this: ta, ta, ti, 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 ta. All right. Now moving ahead. Let's talk about rest values. Rest values. Okay, so when you're dealing with the rest is the opposite of note values. So there's no sound on the rest. On any rest that you may see in music, there's to be no sound. Okay, so let's review over a couple of rests, a few rests. The first rest is the quarter rest. All right, the quarter rest is the opposite of the quarter note. So using context clues, I want you to transfer prior knowledge. So if the quarter note receives 1 beat of sound, how many beats of silence does the quarter rest receive? If you guess 1 beat of silence, you are correct. All right, the next rest value, it's going to be the half rest. It looks like a hat. The half rest is the opposite of the half note. So if the half note receives 2 beats of sound, the half rest receives 2 beats of silence. Okay. And the last rest that we will learn today is the whole rest. Whole rest. It is the opposite of the whole note. So if the whole note receives 4 beats of sound, the whole rest receives 4 beats of silence. All right. Now let's put this into practice. We are in 4/4 time, which means there are 4 beats in each measure. All right, let's write in our beats. We are in 4/4 time. This first quarter note falls on beat 1. The quarter rest receives 1 beat of silence. It falls on beat 2. This quarter note falls on beat 3. This quarter rest falls on beat 4. This measure is now complete. Moving on to the next one. Eighth note, 1 and. The half note receives 2 beats, 2-3. This quarter rest falls on beat 4 in this measure. This measure is now complete. Our last and final measure, the whole rest receives 4 beats of silence. So you will write 1-2-3-4. All right, now, if we were to perform this aloud, it would sound like this. Ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. Okay. Let's try another one. Oh, drop that. All right, we're going to be in 3/4 time signature. Okay. There are 3 beats in each measure. Okay. So the first measure, we're going to write 1 and the half rest receives 2 beats of silence. So you write 2, that's 3. The dotted half note receives 3 beats. 1, that's 2, that's 3. Quarter note there and there. Okay. Now let's count this aloud. It will sound like this. 1 and. T, T. Ta, ta, ta. All right. One final exercise. And this time we're going to be in, let's go with 2/4. Okay, we're going to write in our beats. All right. Now, let's count this aloud. T, 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 ta, ta. Okay, so what we've learned today, let's do a quick review. Today we have learned and reviewed over note values, okay? Again, the quarter note receives 1 beat, you count it aloud as ta. Half note receives 2 beats, you count it aloud as ta-ah. The dotted half note receives 3 beats, you count it aloud as ta-ah-ah. The whole note receives 4 beats, count it aloud as ta-ah-ah-ah. The 8th note receives half a beat, you count it aloud as ti-ti. The 16th note receives 1/4 of a beat, you count it aloud as ticka-ticka. In regards to time signature, you have 2 numbers stacked on top of each other. They appear at the beginning of the music. The top number tells you the number of beats in each measure. The bottom 4 tells you that the quarter note receives 1 beat, and it also tells you that the whole note receives 4 beats. In regards to rest values, we learned that the quarter rest receives 1 beat of silence, the half rest receives 2 beats of silence, and the whole rest receives 4 beats of silence.